God, please pray for my work computer. Alright, now we're going to try trick number 2. Alright, Lizzie, if you can hear us, you may get an invitation to come up on stage, and that's okay. Click at the button. The event will allegedly start on its own in now. Go, start the event. Do it. Do it. Start event. I love that I click this thing and it's just like, no, fuck you, Juliet. You get nothing. I love this. The chat isn't blocking. Okay. Excellent. I choose. I want this to work. What the fuck? Hold on. I don't know why this isn't actually starting, but maybe this is user error on my part. Hold on, let's try.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay! Alright, this has got to be user errors, friends. Start the event. Yes. Start the event. I can't do it from like a thing. Hello, Lizzie. Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay, let me see if I can start it.
No, I got it.
Is this the start the stage?
Yeah,
you got it? Okay.
I got it. I had to not. So I when I'm recording this, I do this in a windowed thing, so that I can see the chat and everybody else, and we're not seeing Juliet's DMs as they come flying in. So yeah. I have not tried turning Discord on and off again. So welcome, Refuge community. Invite your friends, invite your frenemies, invite everybody. Invite people not from this LARP. I always do, because I'm that weirdo. So I am joined tonight by a collection of fantastic, fabulous friends. F words. So I'm joined tonight by Barbara, who is our Portland Head of Plot voting director, all around badass, and just so fucking grateful to have a Barb in my life. And I'm also joined by the myth, the legend, the accounting wizard Lizzie, who is our treasurer, and another body I simply cannot live without. And we are going to ask Lizzie some questions tonight about finances and what it costs to actually run a LARP. So this has been a topic of passion and conversation. Lizzie and I will just lose our shit and talk about exciting finance stuff. But for those of you who don't know, Lizzie has helped unfuck us from several silly situations. And makes accounting fun and accessible. So, Lizzie, thank you again for being here tonight.
Well, I don't know about that.
But one of the things that we're gonna talk tonight as well is the concept of transparency and helping people understand, like, what does it cost to run a LARP? What does it cost for us here at Refuge? And I am so humbled, proud, excited to introduce Corin as our chairperson. So, round of applause for Corin. Thank you. And Corin ran, much like me, on a policy of transparency, and so I just really want to give credit to Corin for inspiring many of the topics tonight. And I'm going to try and share my screen. And those of you in the chat, please help me not fuck it up. Hey, there's Kay, and slipping in quietly is of course Kay Lewis Coring, who is our Salt Lake City director and is showing us cheese.
I can't get my thing to switch.
We're the best network. All right, hold on. While you're doing that,
I don't know how to switch it.
There's a little arrow thing at the top that will tell you to switch your cameras. It'll look like 2 arrows probably. Or just click things and make it weird. Hold on 1 second. All right, God, pray for my work computer, everybody. Come on. Is it gonna do it? This is gonna be this one of. one of these damn... I love cheese too. Like, I'm such a cheese nerd. What I have learned is that Discord really, really hates pop-up windows. Okay, I believe I can fix this, friends. Hold on, don't go anywhere.
There we go. Ta-da!
Yay! Okay. Alright. So, I should be screen sharing. Okay, hold on 1 second. Bear with me. I'm coming back to you, friends. Oh my god.
There we go.
Alright, I'm gonna do the pop-up chat again. Pop out. How many people does it take? Okay. Can I get a confirmation from my friends in the audience? Are you able to see the live stream? It looks like I'm streaming at 720p, 30 frames per second, unless I'm being lied to. You should just see the logo. Okay. Okay, logo. You see the thing. All right. This is why I rely on this fantastic group of nerds. As I mentioned, I have the privilege and pleasure of introducing Corin as our Refuge chair. I am overjoyed. Corin, woo! Would you like to... I know we do have a slide up on the screen of all of you. I am so here for the second picture, guys. I just want you to know I love this picture so much. But Corin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been LARPing for a little bit here. Gosh, 9 years? Really?
It's been a minute.
Something like that, year-round with the pandemic. Yeah, so I've done primarily in the Portland chapter, and I've occasionally been able to make trips out to Seattle. I was at the Nationals event this last September. I'm hoping to make it out to more places, but life is sadly busy. But it's the only way I'll get to PC right now because I'm NPCing both of Portland's games. So,
Woo!
otherwise, sorry, I lost my notes.
You're okay. So you do have a primary character when you get to play, which is Nis, the Kin Celestialist.
Yeah,
And
currently they were not. Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned one of your favorite aspects is a deep RP moment, as well as the collaborative nature of our hobby.
Yeah, like I really love how LARP just creates these moments you never could have planned, like the spontaneity, the collaboration. Yes, I have traumatized Jen in a cabin at midnight.
Love that.
One of my best things. That's what the second picture there, my terrible nightmare girl Cyrene, is for. But yeah, like I've gotten a lot back from this community, and just it's helped me grow in ways that I didn't anticipate. I just owe Refuge a lot, and so I want to give back to that. I've been involved in a lot of different roles that gives me insight into some of the back end parts of the national organization. I was really fortunate to be able to attend a symposium last year as the second for Portland. I got to see like just the vision and all the hard work our owners are putting into this. It was really refreshing to see all of that, and I just want to keep driving that forward. I want to do all I can here to make Refuge be as successful as it can be. I want to help. I want Refuge to live up to the promises it's made to its players.
Fantastic. Very cool. Is there?
And I think there's sorry.
Is there anything? Do you have anything special, like, or anything that's maybe frustrating that you've experienced in LARP that inspired you to make a difference? hard question.
Yeah.
I did
mean,
say you ran on a platform of
I've seen.
transparency, so I will give you the shout out
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. So I have seen in the past situations where communication inside and outside of the organization has not lived up to the standard we want. We are running on volunteer staff, and I recognize all the hard work people put into that, and I appreciate it. But I want to figure out the ways we can make that better going forward, and just how we can engage better with our players.
I think that's
all of you lovely people in the chat right now.
Right? Yeah. So well said. Thank you. Does anybody have, not to put Corn on the spot, but if you have questions in the chat, please feel free to put them in if you're just kind of curious to learn more. Or if there's a lot of shout outs. Jason from Seattle mentioned your amazing knowledge of the rules set, which I would like to just plus one. That's something I'm grateful for. I'm shit with rules. I'm the first person to admit that. But you know, if the audience has questions that they want to share, or just kind of favorite moments with our new chair, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Oh, here we go. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. We have too many Jasons from Seattle. I am definitely going to need both of you to consider shitty nicknames for yourselves. So in what areas do you think Refuge could most improve, and how would you see those improvements being implemented? What a great corporate question. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. So I want to really take, one of the things I'm going into this with is I really want to look at the structure of our committees, see where those are serving us and aren't serving us, restructure them as we need to, look at, like, are there other sorts of committees that could help us out, like, you know, spinning the Refuge Monster Committee back up to help get the database updated and get a new iteration of that is one thing that we're going to be doing, thanks to Andy. And
I love it.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good opportunity. Like, where I'm coming in here, there's a lot of room for moving on to the next stage. Like, we're really appreciative to everybody has come before in these committees, but at the same time, we're excited to have, like, new perspective, new energy, and engagement from as we're getting those committees reevaluated and restaffed.
Ooh, Ben has some great questions here. I don't want to give too many spoilers away. But asking about logistics committee, monster committee. Conveniently tonight we are actually going to talk about those things. I do not pay the audience to say this shit, just so it's said. But I do want to give a little bit of a sneak peek to tonight's agenda. Obviously, please keep the questions coming for Corin if you have any additional questions. But we're going to be talking about Refuge Committee updates, which also means talking about RMC and RMC 2.0. And then we're going to jump into my favorite topic, which is how much does it cost to run a LARP, and then do some audience Q&A. So if you have burning questions that aren't related to any of these things, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Can I copy paste this? Nope, I can't. So, Corin, would you like to touch on some of the updates? Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm really hoping. I'm going to scroll up here in hopes that I can at least catch it for the live stream. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the updates to our beautiful committees?
Yeah, for sure. So we're still in some of the early steps. There's a lot going on. Some things are, excuse me. Some things are a little further on, some things are going to be coming later. One thing I can announce right out the gate here is that we have a brand new lead for the Refuge Publicity Committee. That's the fantastic Jen Alloway from Seattle and Portland. And I'm really excited about some of the ideas she's got. If you're interested at all in helping with the publicity committee, with Jen has a lot of great ideas for helping to promote our organization, to bring in new players, and to help our chapters bring in new players. So if those things sound like things that you're passionate about, we're gonna, I don't have it set up right now, but there's going to be forms for applying to committees that will get announced in the next week or so.
Amazing. Yay.
Yeah. Otherwise, some stuff is in the works for RRC. Can't quite talk about that just yet. And then we're still getting things a little organized with RAC. The current lead is finalizing some updates to their processes that unfortunately got, there were some Google Drive issues. But we're getting that all structured out, and then we will be looking for a new lead for RAC in the future. Our DEIC is also something that we could use volunteers on. I know currently it is set up on the per chapter basis, but I really want to look into shifting this to a more expertise and based, get more diverse voices in there, like not so that we're not saying, oh, well, you have expertise or a lived perspective that would be valuable to us, but unfortunately, Portland already has a rep. Sorry. So there's going to be some more news about that in the future and getting more initiatives going there. Refuge Tech Committee is they're what's keeping us running. We're really appreciative to everything they do. We are always looking for more volunteers for the tech committee who have expertise in those areas that unfortunately escape me now because I'm not as deep of a tech person as them.
It's okay.
But and then the Refuge Logistics Committee, we're going to be looking at where that can be expanded in the future. And then the Refuge Monster Committee, which we're going to be talking about next.
Absolutely. And so I will, I'm going to go through these. I had somebody else ask in the chat. Refuge Rules Committee is RRC. Refuge Promotions Committee, not PR. It's a weird thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's what they named it as promotions. What they meant was PR. There's some debate as to like what the original founders did during the pandemic, and as things have evolved, and for the audience's sake, like we are an organization that is always growing and changing, and then RTC Tech, as Corin said, and then the Logistics Committee and RMC. We are going to talk about next. So again, keep the questions coming in the chat. Either any one of us up on stage will respond, or our amazing family will also respond. And then if you are interested in volunteering, we have people in the audience who maybe are new and maybe this is their first Fireside Chat, how do they volunteer? That's a you question.
Yeah, so there's going to be a process for that, but like if you really just want to get going right now and you're super eager, it's gonna be, I'll drop it in here.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's on the slide, but chairperson.refuge.larp@gmail.com for now.
Not all of our audience can see the slides, unfortunately. So, if you're feeling generous, friends, please feel free to screenshot the slide that you see in the share. Drop a picture in the chat. Thank you. But yeah, so that's how you can help. We have a lot of thanks to Corin's sort of renewed energy, leadership, motivation, initiative, and vision. We have seen a ton of kind of fresh activity. Those of you who did volunteer through me, your names have been passed over, so over to Corin to kind of move through the process. So please feel free to reach out to Corin if you'd like to join one of the teams, or if you have questions about the committees, because committees fall under our amazing chairperson. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And also plug very briefly for that email. I do want there are various ways I want to improve the way we get feedback about various issues, about rules, about just customer service issues, and just what people want to see out of the org. So, if you have some strong, constructive feedback that you want to give, I'll take that at that email too. I can't guarantee I can respond to everyone, unfortunately, but I want to be an avenue for that. Well, we're still working out more formalized ways of handling that. Because I know everybody is tired of the just having the form and putting your info in there, and it's goes into a nebulous somewhere. We want to make sure our players are feeling heard and that their perspectives and what's important to them is taken into account by the national org.
That's super well said. So yay. All right. So RMC, this is a new committee word that some of you are familiar with and some of you may be hearing this for the first time. I'm gonna be very honest with this community. I didn't know this existed until you guys started talking about it in the general chat. I'm just gonna be very honest with you guys. The way I consume my LARPing is it's not always the same as everybody else, but I actually did not know that there was originally a committee for this. I probably knew this, someone probably told me, but Juliet forgot. So that's a reflection of me and no one else. But during the course of that conversation, I learned a ton. This is, as we just got the provisional rule book out. And so there is a monster database that many of your logistics and plot folks use. It's not an official tool in that there was no magical vote for the board of directors, but that does not mean it's not being used, right? So in the interest of updating that database, correcting things like, typos, little stuff like that, Corin has seen fit to actually start that amazing process. So Corin, do you want to, I know it's still in progress, so I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there something that you can share about kind of the direction and the vision and what that's going to look like and who might be leading it?
Yeah, sure. So let me hold on real fast. All right, so getting the Refuge Monster Committee spun back up again, we are going to have Andy from Seattle is going to be leading that. He was on the original iteration and then took over the lead at the end and helped get that finished. And so we're very appreciative to him for that initial groundwork that in getting that created and making that a reality. But he shared with me that there are some ways it can be improved, some things that have been learned over time as that has been used in the various chapters, some updates for rules that have changed, and then looking at where we can take it from there, getting input from former heads of plot, people with Monster Camp and plot side experience, and then more input from people throughout the wider Refuge area, since the initial one was kind of at the time the people we were able to get were from the PDX Seattle area. So we'd love to get some more input from the wider Refuge body and their perspectives on how monsters get used and how we can make a database that works for them as well. So there is that one. I'm going to have a form for it at some point, again within the next week. But if you have a deep burning desire, you can, to join that committee, you can send me an email at my chairperson email, and then I will get you some of the initial questions or the form, and then we will handle the screenings and interview process from there.
Fantastic. Hey, Kay's like in a spot that is not, the camera's not here. Good job. and then they drop off. Oh my god. Amazing. There we go. That was like so well timed. That's gonna look great on the replay.
Oh, my technology bad, internet suck.
It's okay, friend. It's okay. Very, very cool. So if you are in the chat with us, or you have a friend who feels very strongly about statting or about monster cards, how they should look, things like that, this is a great committee for you to jump in. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the original team. Like, I know Bay, this was a point of pride, was this beautiful tool that's really unseen by a lot of the player base. Like I said, I had no idea this thing existed. I am excited to hear that it exists, and more importantly, that there are passionate people that are out there in the Refuge community that are willing to donate their time and to the benefit of all, really. So it's okay. You're fine. You're amazing. Perfect. All right. But we come up with these acronyms, and I do apologize. Like, all LARPs have stupid ass acronyms. But it is Refuge Monster lowercase Database Committee, and so that's what RMC stands for. So if you see that, that is the deet. All right, let's see here. All right, before I get into this topic, because this will be, I think this is going to be fun, and I want to warn both Barb and Kay. If you are willing to share any of the costs that you deal with, that's fucking true. No LARP has more convoluted abbreviations than the United States military, or my employer, which is not that. All right, fantastic. Oh, nice, you got an email. That's fantastic, Corin. Okay, so before we get into the weird finances, any burning questions? There will be a Q&A at the end, and I did ask Jason to hold that off, but I wanted to make sure I'm thoughtful and say if there's anything else that you want to jump in, ask about RMC, ask about the committees, or anything else. I like the question for Corin from Jason, so I'll save that to the end. We will have somebody send you a screenshot. Let's see. It's just a title screen. Okay, we love you, Kendall. All right. So, the first thing I want to talk to everybody about is labor hours, and I sort of snuck this one in at the last minute, and that is absolutely a stock image. That's not one of our members of the Refuge community. I think it is worth stating, and I'm going to ask Barb and Katie either give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on this. Expect that every event will cost around 40 to 80 hours to prep for across your teams. This isn't the work you're doing as an owner. Do you really want to think about how many hours? And
it probably costs me 40 to 80 hours to prep for the event.
So
I have a team of 5.
Okay.
6, excuse me.
I'm not sure I could count.
Lizzie, you own a LARP.
I'm not sure I could count.
Lizzie, you own a LARP.
I know.
Yeah, I would say that it is probably 100 or upwards for me.
Okay.
Just because so the LARP that I run is Call of the Void. It's a relatively new LARP. And being game runner, managing a few teams, trying to put in the emotional labor for everybody on those teams so that everybody takes care of. Because I feel like those hours aren't always counted. And Kay and Barb, correct me if I'm wrong, but owning a LARP is much more than just how much you knuckle down and answer emails or do sign contracts. It's also a lot of emotional labor that you're doing for everyone who volunteers with you.
Correct.
And then a ton of emotional labor that you do to reassure players and get new players. So I would say 100 or above.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, spread across, like, our logistics team works so hard every time. Not just like the meetings where we pull everybody's tags for the games, but like just all the prep work and all the answering of the emails from players and our plot teams. Like the hours our plot teams spend is nuts. Like having meetings, discussing everything that they're planning on doing, building props, like it's a crazy amount of work.
I really agree with that, and I just Sarissa from Salt Lake City in the chat dropped something that I think was really well said, which is running a LARP is a lifestyle more than a hobby, and I think that that's incredibly well said, right? So before we get into the financials, I felt like it would be rude to not acknowledge the volunteer hours that go into creating our hobby, right? So Lizzie, you have a math brain. If we assumed what's the state of wherever you guys live's minimum wage? $15? Can someone do me a math?
Yeah. So if it's about 100 hours for the game runner, about 20 hours, I would say 80 hours for each team. I would say that's, depending on how many teams you have, that's well over 2,000 hours. That goes in for aggregate all volunteers.
So I think it's important to recognize that while we are going to talk about cost tonight, the human cost, the emotional labor that was so rightfully talked about, like your logistics teams, your plot teams, right? We are going to talk about raw US dollars and fiat, but there are some LARPs that have the ability to pay their team members. We are not one of those LARPs. For those of you who are familiar with like Royal Royalty ran in Northern California a couple months ago. The other one that just ran that I saw a bunch of people go to. Like those are things that people of means can go to. They're paying $600 to $1,000 or more for a ticket. Beacoline, for instance, is another one that's a big expensive LARP. Can be done on the cheap, but we come from a several decade long tradition of kind of bootstrapping these experiences. So the numbers that you're going to see are really more focused around network LARPs that are on the smaller end. We're not looking at blockbuster LARP numbers. Those are obviously going to be 4 to 5 times the amount that we're going to be talking about tonight. But I think it's really important that we acknowledge, thank, and appreciate every single person out there who is contributing to these experiences and delivering these magical moments, memories that we all carry together. Like, so many of you I've had the privilege of role playing with. I'm thinking about the first time I met Dane in Denver in Alliance before he became a merchant prince and then a king. Shout out to His Majesty Aiden Corso. I was a queen first. Fuck you. Oh, wait, hold on. This is for Dane. Hold on. I didn't actually think about this until this is for Dane. This is where Elevir's belt graduated to. It is literally now part of my regular rotation. So I always have a little bit of Refuge / Alliance with me. Mostly, I rarely get to play anymore, but there you go, Dane.
Mine's on my arm.
Shit. Yes, but this is a great example, right? We invest in this hobby invests in us. And my heart goes out to Etheria. If you're not aware and you've ever wanted to participate in an apocalypse, I cannot recommend Salt Lake City enough for an end of the world plot if you'd like to go and do that thing. All right.
Sure. Like 6 years of plot, like moving to its conclusion. It's like every game so far has been epic, and like I cannot shout out my plot team enough because holy cow, they're just working their butts off, making every game special. It's and scary.
There's something to be said for the end of these big giant arcs. I've only been able to participate in a few of them, but there's nothing like a brand new campaign either. Like I want to take a moment and like recognize the Lobby campaigns, which I think we actually have. Is there a Lobby campaign active in the Pacific Northwest right now? Is there like a new? Yes.
So Severin is taking over for Bros in August. Level 4.
4?
And Boise was really low until like I think this year the level cap is going away, which is crazy, but it's been a really low campaign too.
That's so like there's something to be said when you get your very first life spell, like for the game, like your community, you and your 40 to 60 homies have been like trying not to die, and you've got one life item between the entire town, and the first person gets that first life spell. I feel like it is so incredibly moving to play in a low level campaign. If you have a character who is in the 30s, 40s, 50s, great, that's awesome, congrats. But take the time to really remember what it's like to be broke as fuck. And like just it is so rewarding. Yeah. All right. So, without further ado, math. If someone can take a screen cap of this now, I am going to be very transparent with this community. These numbers are based almost exclusively on Juliet's experience as a Dystopia Rising chapter owner. So many of these prices are based on conversations I have had with California owners. They are based on conversation, and this is not just Alliance, not just Refuge, not just Dystopia Rising, but other games as well. But these are not blockbuster games. These are going to be, you as a player, probably going to be paying somewhere between $60 and $120 for the weekend entertainment. So that's what this math is based on. All right. So numbers assume this cost at a glance. I'm going to walk through these, and then Lizzie, do you mind after I walk through these kind of sharing your perspective as well? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right, great. So in Lizzie we trust. So these numbers assume a 60 to 80 person event. She's like, why are you putting me on the spot, you bitch?
Lizzie's awesome.
Lizzie's awesome. So we assume a 60 to 80 person event, which for some of you is high, for some of you is low. On the West Coast, that assumes absolutely no startup costs. These costs assume that you have been in play for anywhere between 6 and 18 months, so you don't have any of those startup costs that might involve founding an LLC. If you don't have an LLC and you plan to form a LARP, get a fucking LLC. Location, food, and other monthly costs are going to vary wildly, ladies and gentlemen. Like, running a game in Utah does not cost the same thing that it does outside of Seattle or in Northern California or Southern California. But Utah sites are a thing. I chose not to even touch on how difficult it is to find a site literally anywhere on the West Coast. Our East Coast friends, the original Nero and Lions Pals and Mythic Realms, and they actually have a much easier time finding sites out there, which is horseshit. But anyway, so your mileage is going to vary.
Affordable sites is a key too.
Yeah, affordable, right? Affordability. So I in transparency, you can use the Girl Scouts, you can use the Boy Scouts, you can use 4-H, you can use YMCA, all of these different, you can use Airbnb as well. I tried that route for a brief period of time, or Hip Camp. Assume $3,000 at an absolute minimum for your site, and that is a cost you incur for every single game. Now, I'm going to look at Barb and Kay and Lizzie, who are currently running sites. Is this on the money? Is this high? Is this low? How are we feeling? It's about right.
Yeah.
See how
about right.
they look? Do you see the
Yeah,
look on their three faces of pain? Like, I want you to remember that. It's balls, friends. So on top of your
it's
site
a
costs, it sucks. This sucks. On top of your site costs, your site manager might be like, "Hey, I want a deposit of $500 every time you're here." Case face is just like it, and I'm sorry this hurts you and your soul, friend. This is the real shit, friends.
Also like being tax season and all, like I just did my taxes, and so it was like one of those rough moments where I'm like, oh, okay, that's exactly how everything broke down. Good to know.
You're welcome.
Thank you for doing your taxes.
Right?
For those of you who don't know, in a former life, I was a tax preparer.
It was a whole thing looking at like all my itemized stuff and going, oh wow, that campsite was way expensive.
Right. I was blessed when I was an owner. I had a consistent campsite, so I knew my costs every single month. But there was
Oh, I was just gonna say with the Boise site, it's that way because Boise is we've been using the same campsite almost the entire time we've been there, which is a beautiful 4-H camp, and their price is the same, but the food costs vary per event depending on the amount of people. And that's another thing that like comes to mind for discussing all this is that some campsites you're doing, you're doing your own food, like you're organizing it, you're doing it, and then some campsites actually do it themselves. And like Cascade Lake for Boise, they do it themselves, and it's a certain cost. And it breaks down to like I think it's like $8 a meal, let's say, I think. And the site that we used for our first event this year for Salt Lake, theirs was like 14 or 15 a meal, like, and no extras. And so I mean that's another variation, is depending on if your site does food, doesn't do, a big variation because of that.
Right. So your site is obviously going to be your biggest cost, and it's your biggest X factor until you find one that you can build a relationship with as an owner. You're kind of shit out of luck. Now, when I rented from the Girl Scouts in Colorado, previous LARP owners that may or may not have been, previous network CEOs, had created some challenges with the Girl Scouts in Colorado, but we already had an established relationship, so it didn't impact us. But LARPs that came after us, they wanted the full thing up front for every single month that you rented for, right? So when you rent with those big organizations, sometimes you have to pay for 50% of your site at the time of reservation, which means that you're paying potentially 10 grand in one shot to reserve your sites for your upcoming season. Like, that is so challenging financially. Most of us don't just have 10 grand laying around.
Can I interject here? The regionals event was a $5,000 deposit for one event.
And that's just the deposit.
And that's the deposit.
Yeah. If I could jump in here as well, the other thing too is that on top of deposits, on top of site fees, the other thing that you have to be aware of is that if you are using a site that other LARPs use, you kind of have to trust that other LARP to be treating the owners properly. Because there have been times when sites can be lost because one other LARP in the area, I don't want to say ruined it for the rest of us. So that's kind of what happens. So there's a big difficulty there if the LARP runners in the community aren't super well connected, if there are players that go to some that don't go to others, if that's not taken care of, that you can lose a site really easily. And in areas where you don't have access to a ton of sites, it really sucks when you just lose that connection and then you have to go digging for another site that might be way more expensive.
Right. I just want to take a second and acknowledge like the ecosystem of LARP owners, right? Lizzie brings up this incredibly powerful point, which is we are not out here alone. There are other LARPs in all of our cities. Many of you are in LARP saturated regions. And so if Nero goes out and shits where they eat, if you will, or the DR owner does something exceptionally shitty and ends up in a newspaper, that impacts your region as a whole. So those relationships, and even if you don't have something truly heinous in your region, you want to be accommodating for other people who are using the site, right? So these are things that you have to consider in terms of cost. What I asked in the chat, by the way, if for those of you who are seeing numbers like this for the very first time, is there anything that you find to be really surprising? Jen is saying, how many people on average do you need per game just for the chapter to break even? What a great question. That varies, but I'm going to toss to Kay.
Yeah, depending on the site, it's a fixed price. So we've had campsites also that were a fixed price and a daily head total. Yeah. So it was like you had your fixed price of, say, 3,500, and then it was an additional $15 per day per head. Like, it depends on the campsite. So like there's one particular that we've used that was astronomical because of that. Like, and that's what I was talking about earlier when it comes to like finding affordable sites, is finding the sites that just do the basic fee for the rental for the weekend, which is great. There's also a bunch of sites that charge you per building or per cabin.
Yep.
Like, even if you are renting out the site for the entire weekend and nobody else is going to be there, and you're not using several of the cabins, but you have to literally pick and choose which ones you will be using on your invoice or when you book the campsite, because they charge you per building. So it definitely depends on the campsite.
Yeah.
There's campsites that are wonderful that are like, this is your fee for the whole weekend, have at it. And then there's campsites that are like, you can't use this building unless you pay $150 a day. Or like the one I was talking about earlier, which is not only do they charge per person per day, also a site fee and also per building.
Yeah, one of the interesting things. Go for it, Kay.
Oh no, you're good. I'm done.
I was gonna say, one of the interesting things is it's not just per head; it's it's the ratio. Portland's been really heavy with NPCs recently, which is a great problem to have. Except NPCs don't pay; they pay for meal plan if they're participating. So your PC covers not only the per head for the PC, but also for the NPCs. And if you have like a 1-to-1 or a 1.22-to-1 or something like that, then that gets really, really stressful very quickly. We're having, for our next event, we have like 45 people pre-regged, but half of them are like, a third of them are NPCs. So that's probably a sustainable number. Like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 is usually a pretty sustainable number. But anything over that is really upsetting.
This is such that's awesome. Where does the money go that each chapter pays to the national org? I am happy to chat through that one. That's such a good, Christina, that's a fantastic question. So I'm gonna leave that after I get through a couple more of these line items. But I do want to address that because I think that's really, really important to touch on. So we carry insurance, right? LARP owners should always carry insurance. How each network or LARP or owner carries said insurance is a little bit unique to each. I used West Point and paid per player, which was $6 per head, I think, in 2019. And I had to pay that after every game, but I carried $1 million insurance policy with $500,000 on covering autos. So, which is pretty standard in the LARP community, but based on this, so that's $300 or $400 on top of what you're already paying, right, per event. Storage, almost everybody has a storage unit. Hopefully it's close to site. If it's not, sorry. Yeah, is that somebody who's got storage on site? I know that dance.
I have it all in my garage. I have a big garage. So I save on storage fees that way.
Lizzie, what about you?
Storage fees for a trailer, not a storage unit.
Okay.
We actually have a storage unit that's closer to site. We also, of course, this goes into the next point, so I don't want to override it, but there's always that transportation with it. There is no one in our community that has the capacity to pick up all of that stuff. So every time you have to lug out plot camp, it's a fee of a U-Haul.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so well said. Like I cheated that system and chose, because I had a permanent site. I had my storage unit was 1.5 miles, and I gave my players what we used was assistance points, but goblin stamps, refuge points, chapter points, whatever, influence points if you play Twin Mask. We gave them points for going to get shit with their cars after they had unloaded their own crap, and that's a way to kind of offset that balance using, the monopoly money of your LARP. But what would Lizzie? Do you mind? How much do you pay for a truck rental every game?
Uh,
I assume
about
$500.
$100.
Okay, all right.
150 for us.
Okay, there we go.
We
Yeah,
just
so
pay for the trailer.
yeah, it's about 150 when we don't have a vehicle to haul our trailer. We have to rent a vehicle to haul our trailer.
But then the other thing that you need when it comes to storage is that, especially if you live in the Pacific Northwest where floods happen, you have to pay for insurance for what is in the storage unit, because you might have easily $1,000 worth of weapons, costumes, that kind of stuff. You might have well over that in things that can't be replaced, really important props that people physically made at home. So if you don't have insurance to cover some of that, and there's a flood happens or something goes wrong in the storage unit, you're really screwed.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
beautiful. And then you have all of the other sort of incidentals, right? All of the technology, all of the office supplies that are required. Like your game had to buy a laminator. Right? Just stupid shit, right? Your Amazon cart is always filled with random crap, and I don't even mean the props. Like, I did not want to really build this with props in mind. I threw in $1,000 per year for Monster Camp, but I know that you all spend more than that. It's a really low ball number, but I wanted to give folks a sense of how much it costs to run a single event, which is between $4 and $7 grand. And then over the course of a season, at a bare minimum, it's probably going to cost around $35,000, which is, not a small number. And I think as players, we have kind of the privilege of ignorance and being able to show up, and everything is kind of set up the same way. Sure, there's little hiccups along the way, and we don't always kind of get a sense of what the hell it costs to do these things. And people will come to me and be like, "I want to be a LARP owner," and I'm like, no. The running gag for me specifically is that I will tell people, no, you can't be a LARP runner over and over again, and then they do it anyway. And I say these things out of love. But it's because there's a financial and emotional and mental investment when you take one of these things on. And so giving people at least some numbers to work from, I think, is really important. And I asked kind of Lizzie to be here because Lizzie will be doing kind of more transparency around our financials. So one of the things I do want to go back and not forget that I was asked here is while my cat's trying to destroy while my cat is trying to destroy my couch, which is, hold on, I want to make sure. Okay, there we go. Christina asks, so where does the money go that each chapter pays the national organization? This is a great question. And I'll have Lizzie kind of come in behind me to give some additional context, but server fees. Like, I'm just going to be very, very honest with all of you. The database that we use our characters for is hosted on Heroku, which is actually an enterprise grade application. So we pay for hosting for websites. We pay for the application for the database. Depending upon how much work we're doing on the database, that might be more or less per month. We also use it to buy new coin. We use it to pay for our taxes, y'all. Like it's not like we bring in a lot of money as an organization. But that's where our money goes. So like basically the chapter owners pay a bunch of money up front, and then over the course of the year, it winds down. But we are not a profitable organization. So Lizzie, you filed our taxes Would you like to give a little bit more color? And like I said, we intend to be more transparent with this. We have just been genuinely getting up to speed in terms of our finances, and that's part of the reason that Lizzie's part of the team. So.
Well, I will say, so with business taxes, it's very rare, if ever, that you can find a free system that will be able to look through your work and double check it. So if you are not a tax professional, you're really forced to go with a software that does the work for you, or go into H&R Block. And those fees on their own are usually about $150 to $200.
I paid $500 for my business taxes this year. Yeah.
It's bad. But the other thing is registration fees. Every business is registered within a state, and every state that I know of requires you to pay a registration fee in order to stay constant with the Secretary of State or the Department of Revenue. And then if you're in a state that also does their own taxes, similar to Oregon, then you're also paying that on top of your federal. More than that, when you begin to file taxes, you have to pay to be filed in order to get your employment number for your federal recognition of your organization. And then it really depends on what other things you go into. The most difficult thing that I found is that also if you're late, if you're bad with deadlines, you're going to pay extra money no matter what. There's a lot of penalties that can get levied against you very easily if you screw up your taxes, if you fail to meet deadlines. And so on top of all of the deadlines that you have to meet in order for the databases to get paid, or for certain things to be collected, if you're short a little bit in 1 month, in one period, and it's going to be caught up over here, you still have to pay what's over here. So there's this thing called timing that it exists in accounting, where uh, at the end of the year, it looks good because your expenses were still less than the amount of revenue you brought in. And so you have a profit. But with timing, if your expenses hit at a time when you don't have that much in the bank, then that can really cripple any LARP or any organization. So it's really one of those situations where you don't just have to keep track of how much you're going to pay aggregate of the year. You have to keep track of when those expenses are going to hit and if you're going to have enough revenue for it. If I can backtrack a little bit, the situation if you own a LARP is you have to be really exact with when your revenue is going to come in, how much revenue you're expecting, when your expenses are going to come in, how much you're expecting for those, to see if the timeline matches up. If it doesn't, then the owner usually has to dump money into the organization. And if the owner doesn't have that money or can't recover that money, such as if it's a 501(c), then you're just putting in a ton of money and hoping that next year is going to be better or next period is going to be better. So there's a lot of stress that can go into accounting. It's very, very interesting.
I had 1 year I was in the black. 1 year. And it was 2020 because Dystopia Rising chose to do online events, and so I had no site fees. It is the only year I was in the black, just in transparency. Like, after DR did the 3.0 launch in the fall of 2019, I was out $3,000 because 45% of my player base didn't agree with the new rule set, and they just evaporated. So I had to cover the costs of my site, and I didn't have the players to recuperate it. So I want to be, that's my personal experience. I'm not going to throw any of the other owners on this call under the bus. But I think it's important that you guys have this level of context, and so we appreciate the questions that we're seeing in the conversation, we're seeing in the chat. But this is why so many LARPs fail, is because it's a lot of passion, but not a lot of business acumen. And so I think that not everybody enters this hobby with the same skill set. So we really, fortunately, our current board of directors are seasoned business owners. They are so deeply invested in this network, in all of you, and ensuring that you can continue to play pretend with your friends at least once a month. Like, there's so much work that goes into this. So I just hug your owners. Like, tell them thank you. Some of these people on this call I don't get to see terribly often, but for those of you on this call, thank you for all of your hard work. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you. So I know finances are kind of a sometimes a sad, sad and depressing topic, but know that your owners bend over backwards. Yes, let's go fund me for let's fucking send our owners to a day spa. You know what? Can we add the rest of the national staff to
You're the
that too,
cutest thing
Ryan?
ever.
God, Ryan, I love you so much. Never change. Someone buy Ryan some
Can
tacos.
Can I add one little thing that I don't think either of the owners are going to say, but is something really important? If any of you play Refuge, if any of you go to a site, the reason why we ask you to clean up stuff as often as we do is because, and a lot of people don't know this, we get charged extra if
Yes,
things
Lizzie.
aren't clean. That is why we are so on top of people when it comes to cleaning cabins, when it comes to picking up packets and stuff like that. It's because that is a fee that we all have to deal with.
Either that or we
So,
have to do it at the end when you don't do it.
Yeah.
Like we'll be sitting there until like 3 o'clock or
That-
4 o'clock
Fuck.
cleaning up your cabins for you.
So if all of y'all could help each other clean things up, it'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, none of our sites offer like an additional fee if the cabins aren't clean. They just, slowly grow to hate you, and then you can't use that site one day.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
that too.
like, that's when we were talking about earlier is our relationship with our sites, how important it is to not be, to be that group that is very clean and is always on top of getting our stuff and making sure that we left it better than we got to it, because those relationships are what keep us using the sites that we can afford and keeping a good relationship with them. So,
Yeah.
and if there are additional fees, we don't want to pay those either.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
I'm dying. What's
Darcy, that
Jason's
sounds
question?
terrifying.
All right. So Jason asked, this was from Corin, because I love this question. This was a bylaws question. So what is the thing about the bylaws that you would change? I think that's what Justin. Hold on. I'm not. Jason put this up here. I'm pretty sure it was like, what is your blah blah blah. There was something about fucking. Hold on. I got it. I'm gonna find it. Jason said words. It wasn't I'm broke AF. That was one of the words that he said. But he did ask something about, God damn it, Jason. Broke AF Hy-Vee. Yes, that is true.
Phrase I often say.
I believe it was, what is the bylaw that you would, what is your least favorite bylaw and what would you change? I think.
Least favorite bylaw.
God. Jason's gonna be like, what the fuck, Jules? This is not what I said.
I don't know, there's a lot in the bylaws, and I've only really looked at the voting process so far, and we also, because we have a wonderful team that is working on streamlining our bylaws, and so that we can be more agile as an organization. But I think generally, and this is a thought I've only had today, and I have talked to precisely one person about it. So I'm not going to suddenly come out of nowhere and make this a campaign if the rest of national staff suddenly broke out in sweats. But like one thing I would like to see, because I have I've seen what I've had to catch up for. When there isn't a chair and the president is really busy, like, level with you, this chair job is a lot for one person who doesn't have a lot of commitments. You put that and the president job together, because the president is the interim chair when the chair has to step down or is unavailable for a long period of time or what have you. That is too much. I would really love to see, in a perfect world, a vice chair and a vice president for the organization. People who are there to help out the chair and the president with everything they're doing, so that they are more familiar with the workflows. They're already involved in communications, so that if life happens and the chair or the president has to step aside, there's somebody who can step into that role immediately and make things, keep things going, without putting that enormous workload on top of somebody else who already is doing so much. That's my bylaws wish.
Fuck yes. I want to just super second that. Several people in the chat said vice chair, vice president. Like, these are all things that we can change. There's nothing that's terrible. Like, even the bylaws can change, friends. So, what a good answer. I love that, Corin. That was well said. Sorry, Jason, that I mangled your question. Credit to Hiram for finding it. It was basically, is there anything that you'd like to change? It does sound uncomfy. I do also, there was I can't believe I'm about to read this out loud. Somebody, Ragewind submitted a proposal to allow flails, and provided a prototype flail. Any status update on this? I know, it's Jugger. Jugger is like, Jugger and Ampguard, I think, are the only ones that allow flails. Jugger's a sport. Look it up. I don't have a good update for you, but I assume that went to Art. Oh, okay. All right. Do you have an update?
I can just say that it went to RRC, so I think they're looking into the proposal. So,
okay. Well, there you go.
But we haven't had room further than that. We've got a lot of other things that we've been focusing on, but I'm sure it's on there.
I love it.
I will check in on that. I have not. That one hasn't come up, but I've mostly been looking at board originated votes. So
Flails,
we'll
y'all.
see. I'll get to the bottom of that for you.
All right, there we go. I love it. Okay. A meteor hammer type weapon. Okay, there we go. I stand corrected. I do want to mention real quick that for those of you who don't recall, I will be stepping down as president only because my career demands 50 to 60 hours of my time every week on top of what I do for Refuge, and I'm planning 2 weddings, one of which happens in 2 weeks, so I will disappear. Yay! I will disappear for like 6 weeks, at which point, be kind to Corin. Love Corin. Love the other board of director members. Take good care of each other. Be cool. Don't suck. Be patient. Give grace to yourself. Give grace to others, please. Otherwise, when I come back, I will be rude and mean, and no one wants that. No one wants that. So, all right, do we have any other questions in the chat? Otherwise, I want to give people, are there any incentives for server boosting the Refuge Discord server? Yes, you get your own private chat. I don't know what it does, but you do get a private chat if you boost the server. Marley was kind enough to set one up.
I think Roy's wanting to know if there are Refuge point rewards or chapter point rewards based on boosting the national server.
Yes, I think we can do that. Corin, we can do that, right? Plans to reduce the RP costs of getting items made, as a 20 writ item costs around $600 or $700. I know RP are primarily a way of rewarding volunteer hours, but for those that do donate to, or choose to donate to things like national events, it's very expensive. That's a great question, Jason. Thank you. I know there's been some conversation around rewards and re-examining kind of that structure and that infrastructure. But I'm gonna reply to this and tag Corin because I feel like this kind of is in line with some of the other things you're considering and looking at.
I have to be completely transparent. No, I'm not aware of any plans to change that. I do recognize that if you are wanting to get, like, make a 20 writ item with refuge points, it can be a lot.
So the short answer, Jason, is not currently.
I would love to. Yeah, sorry to disappoint there. As we're looking at updating committees and expanding what we're doing, or making more opportunities for positions that are like lower commitment for people who already have a very busy, but can still contribute in some way infrequently. There may be opportunities for that in the future, but I can't guarantee anything beyond that.
That's reasonable. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody asking questions. If you do have additional ones, feel free to drop them in the chat. But we're getting towards kind of the quarter past the hour. So I do want to tell you all that there are actually the rest of the firesides kind of through the next couple of months are already scheduled out. I will not be present for the May one because I'll be in the United Kingdom. Level cap thoughts, Corin. Quick hot take.
Oh, wow. That neat. Jason is trying to get a mob incited against me only a couple weeks into my term. Yeah, I see that, Andy. I see you getting your pitchfork out. I think I've heard an idea in the last year or so that I like, and this is personal. This is magical chair powers off. This speaks for nobody else in the organization. I'd like to see when we kind of in tandem with a rewrite of the rule sets. I think there is some room for not a level cap quite, but a squish where I think somebody has described it as everybody gets half their XP plus 12. So that, like, the people who've been around for a long time, the people who have been attending a lot of games and contributing a lot to events over the years, that they still hold the benefits of those relative to everyone else, but that it reduces the overall distance between characters, and that there's potentially more room to catch up there in the future. So that is my completely unofficial answer to that question. Let's see. Plane tickets to Antarctica.
So good. So good. Oh my god. I love it. I love it. Okay, hot take, hot take. These are the type of things that we enjoy towards the back end of this, to getting those hot takes. I have opinions, but all right. With that, I think I'm gonna call this one. Just a huge thank you to our incredibly interactive audience. Several of our leads showed up. Thank you so much. One of these calls, I would love to see it be the committee leads actually leading the charge and making poor Jen be
Oh yeah.
be the host. I love that idea. Jen, not to throw you under the bus, apologies. But I think it would be super fun to kind of have a fireside with just the committees leading the charge. That might be an idea for May, or while I'm away.
That was already my idea.
See, shit, fucking Corin's on top of it. All right.
Right?
Under the bus. You wanted to? I did. Keys to Jen.
Congratulations, Juliet, on your wedding.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Weddings.
Weddings, 2 weddings. I count the original wedding as the wedding we had in Acarthia in Alliance, Denver. My mother, however, feels that I need a real wedding and some legal paperwork, which is bullshit. So, if you follow me on Facebook, right? If you follow me on Facebook, you will see video as well as images from our whirlwind Vegas-themed wedding here in Las Vegas, and then over in the United Kingdom in a church built in the 1100s, where my grandmother got married in 1931. Yeah, it should be very, very cool. So I will tell Ray hello from you, Kendall. Don't worry. All right, friends. Viva the Refuge.
Thank you so much.